Hi everybody, and welcome to our Orbus live session, which is entitled Practical Strategies for Use Case Identification and Prioritization. And before we get started, just with some introductions. So I'm Rupert Colborne, I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Orbus Software. And I'm pleased to say I'm joined today by my esteemed collaborator, Vikas Goel, who is an AI advisor and director at Shiker Consulting. And in our discussion today, we're going to be talking about approaches to AI use cases, along with methods to identify and prioritize them, and also looking to do this through a dual lens of AI expertise and enterprise transformation. So a little housekeeping. If you have any questions today, then please post them into the chat and we'll come back to them later via LinkedIn. And so with that, let's go.
Well, thank you, Rupert, for this introduction. So, brief about Shiker Consulting. So, we at Shiker Consulting help businesses to map technology to their processes. So, we are a boutique consulting firm and we work with our clients on digital data and AI transformations. Now, to get this discussion started, I would like to start first with sharing a framework that an enterprise can use to assess their readiness to adopt AI. This framework is developed by the University of Oxford, where I'm also currently pursuing my master's on AI.
Very good.
So we call this framework as 4 C's. The first C stands for constituents. They are your stakeholders and your executive team. Here we assess whether your constituents are aligned into what AI can or cannot do for your business.
Mhm.
The second C stands for capabilities, where you assess the maturity of your data, of your technology, and your people, whether they are ready to embrace AI. The third C, which we can use to assess an organization for their readiness, is around their culture. This is where we see whether organization really rewards experimentation or not. Do they have the appetite to take the risk of AI? And because things can go either direction. So
Mhm.
that's the thing which is very important in an organization to allow organizations to or their teams to fail fast and fail often.
Yeah.
And lastly, the last C on which we actually assess organizations is called compliance. Do the organization understand the ethical and responsible frameworks of AI and have existing practices around it? So, basis of all of these, we are able to actually benchmark an organization on the point of start when they start their AI journey. The good news is that Orbus Software's Orbus Finity platform is actually now ready to enable its customers to automate, accelerate, and augment their AI journey. At this point, I would like to invite you, Robert, to tell us a little bit more about Orbus Finity and this framework.
Sure. Thank you, Vikas. And just want to add also a nice choice of shirt today. Looks very good.
Yes,
um,
beautifully formed.
yeah, before I launch into the virtues of Orbis Infinity, just give some background context into what we're seeing and what we're hearing in the market around AI in the enterprise. And if you're a reader of Gartner reports, you're probably aware that generative AI is currently positioned in the hype cycle at the peak of inflated expectations. Um, so for those of you who aren't aware of the Gartner reports or less familiar, then the hype cycle is essentially a representation of the maturity, the adoption, and application of specific technologies. And what we're seeing today is similar to what Gartner is saying, is that there's a huge amount of publicity, lots of attention in the media, and general optimism, and quite rightly. And therefore, business leaders like us, whilst it's all very exciting, we have to make sure we're very cautious about the unknowns around it.
Yeah, indeed. And it seems like the generative AI will continue to remain at the peak of this inflated expectations for some more time. But I totally agree with you, Rupert, here that uh, despite that curiosity in the businesses to bring AI ASAP, we got to be cautious about the approach with which it is done. So
Yeah.
I just want to ask you here, Rupert, is this the view also reflected by your customers?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, the indication we're getting from a number of customers is that they're currently in the stage of investigation and exploration.
Yeah.
So they're piloting, they're experimenting, using a lot of different AI tech, um, with with fewer customers really who are moving from AI in development into production environments. Although the feedback we're getting is that this is it's increased massively over the coming months and certainly years, of course. But they have to be considerate of adapting and molding to this new ways of working and new ways of thinking.
Yeah.
The other feedback we're getting is that the technology isn't sitting still. So they're not getting time to really look at technology before it moves on and gets leapfrogged by something else. So they're really finding it hard to keep up. And as you know, like us, every IT vendor out there is generally announcing they're working on some form of AI technology at the moment.
Indeed.
But as you allude to, at Orbus, we talk about an approach to enterprise transformation, and it centers around not the four C's this time, but
Mhm.
we call the three A's or the triple A, and not to be confused with the batteries, but this stands for automate, accelerate, and augment. And this method is applied neatly in the case of maturing organizations who are embarking on, say, an AI journey.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Sure. Maybe I pick up on that metaphor you used on the batteries with AAA. Actually, they are the
Yeah,
batteries to charge your organization on the journey to AI.
very good.
Yeah. Well, got you there. But now I think you have further made me curious to learn a little bit more about what exactly this AAA strategy is, or how it works, and what are the end goals of your customers are around it.
Yeah, sure. So very quickly, high level. The first A, automate. So we're talking about reducing manual work.
Mhm.
As an example, it might be talking about bringing data in from external systems, data collection, data gathering, as we call it. Bring this in from various sources and using advanced integration technologies and capabilities to manage that. This is then followed by filtration and curation of data. The classic phase of rubbish in, rubbish out. Um, Automate focuses on that to make sure we have high levels of quality data inbound from the right sources.
Yeah.
Then the accelerate is the second A, and that's just as it sounds. So with Orbis Infinity, we're able to help business leaders with getting deep insights into their enterprise architecture landscape, which is by providing powerful views, allowing to discover trends and identify future opportunities. And then the final A, which is augment, is where we enable businesses to become proactive and adaptive, managing their EA landscape. So it enables things like efficiency gains, planning and risk mitigation, ultimately making those big decisions drive their transformation strategies and roadmaps. So you can think of the three A's as a cyclical program, if you will. So it continuously evolves based on inspect and adapt checkpoints, ensuring agility and productivity, and it's continuous throughout the whole transformation journey.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense to me now. Yeah. It is a cyclic process.
Mhm.
I would say that the complexities of these would actually grow with every pass, and eventually create a flywheel for success for an
Mhm.
organization. So on
Yep.
that note, Rupert, can you give me some examples of how this might apply in an AI transformation case, and what role does enterprise architects play in the journey?
Yeah, I mean, since we're specifically talking about AI, we see the enterprise architects continuing to act as the strategic advisor for the business. They provide the vision and the guidance to help shape how AI can be transformed in, or using AI to transform in their organization. But whilst always aligning it to business and IT strategy, making sure that is the North Star. Um, one overlooked important factor that contributes to an AI transformation either succeeding or failing, I believe, comes down to the culture within the business.
Yeah,
And what we're hearing, I don't know if you get this as well, but the role of the enterprise architect is evolving more than ever now. So they're becoming this ambassador for change.
yeah.
And it's a role now that promotes more than your classic EA role. It now promotes innovation and these new ways of working that we're talking about.
Sure. And I'm sure they also play a part in the feasibility of AI solutions, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the key in assessing feasibility of AI
Mhm.
projects,
Yeah,
they need to grapple with the technical capabilities of AI. They need to understand the business fit of the proposed solutions, and they also need to consider things like the budgetary constraints. Um, So they then go on to define this architectural schema and the roadmap that supports the initiatives, and they need to do this to ensure that the other systems are well integrated and future-proofed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really key thing. So at Orbus, we refer to this architectural schema as the digital blueprint.
Mhm.
And this comes with the standards and governance that ensures that AI solutions will be secure and compliant in line with the appropriate controls of the business.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. But actually, security and compliance is a hot topic with our customers too. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, yeah,
And I would like to say that when you're speaking with your clients and your customers and working on their journeys of AI transformation, how do you weigh up the risk versus reward when it comes to that AI enablement?
yeah, right. Well, it's definitely a challenge.
Mhm.
We
I
know
can
that much.
imagine so. Yeah, yeah.
Um, Companies concerned about a few things. They're concerned about leakage of
Hmm.
sensitive information,
But
or
absolutely.
they're concerned about having misinformation generated by AI. And they're absolutely right to be paranoid. They should be, but at the same time, they need to be conscious that their innovation potential would be stunted if they don't get behind it
Mhm.
and get behind it quickly. And it sounds harsh, but I'm of the very strong opinion that businesses that fail to adapt AI and do it quickly, they will themselves fail.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is where a sort of nuanced analysis and evaluation is required.
Indeed, I'm sure. So this is a very fine balance they need to strike between the speed of execution
Hmm.
versus the risk it comes along with, and find that balance to have the right path charted for them.
Yeah.
So how can Orbus Finity help in this?
So our mission frameworks. So we offer a number of frameworks that help
Mhm.
organizations establish this robust data governance.
Right.
And by using these frameworks, it's possible to map things like your roles and responsibilities to sensitive data. We also have an AI reference model, which we can probably share in the chat. Actually, that'd be useful for our listeners. Um, and beyond this, we have data classification, so we can ensure that sensitive data is mapped appropriately. And of course, we track the life cycle of assets. We store content that may be processed or indeed generated by AI. Um, and what we're seeing is that as regulations become more stringent around this topic, it's really important to have a platform that can let you run impact analysis, perform risk assessments and scenario planning. They're really key to making sure that it's a robust, successful transformation. Um, but kind of brings us back to the four C's you mentioned earlier on, Vikas, and perhaps you can share some experiences that you've had with your customers. Quite keen to know how they responded to AI, and are you seeing mixed responses as well?
Well, indeed, it resonates quite well with us as the way we have observed the growth of AI in the last year, especially, and some of the transformation activities that we carried out with them. So what we observed is that some of our clients who had more appetite for risk, who were proactive, and had that culture in the organization to fail fast, fail often,
Hmm.
they are the ones who took lead in doing carrying out multiple proof of concepts in the organization last year. And now in 2024, some of those proof of concepts are being taken into production.
Great.
So actually that brings me back to my first C of the 4C framework, which is the constituents,
Yeah.
that the kind of role that they play in this. So when your top team is aligned and then there is a top down push for AI, things tend to move fast.
Hmm.
And it was also validated by the recent survey done by Gartner in 2024 itself, with companies that have done AI use cases last year. What it finds that the companies who have been able to successfully embrace generative AI in 2023, 75% of them said that they had a top-down push for AI. So which again emphasizes the point that uh, that first C of our 4C framework really plays an important role on how you chart your journey on AI. Well, actually, Rupert, this lends us very well into our next segment of this conversation, and which is how do you know like what use cases to implement and under what time horizons?
Great question.
Yeah, because the right identification and the prioritization of AI use case can actually set off an organization to the path of success.
Hmm.
And In our conversations, we normally see that one way to classify the use cases is that these use cases could be your everyday AI use cases. Uh, the use cases could be which can just change the game in which you're playing, the game changing AI. And third could be certain use cases can just push the boundary limits a little bit. So, so that's how we sometimes classify the use cases when we are trying to identify them. And another way to really look at it is uh, sometimes the use cases are help you, or this AI could help you bring new products to the market and help you bring new business altogether. Sometimes AI could be used to transform your internal operations. And thirdly, the AI could also be used to change the way an organization really interacts with its customers and its employees. So yeah, so these
Yeah,
are some of these practical things
yeah.
that we do around use cases of AI.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with some of those. Because for our listeners, perhaps give some examples of the typical characteristics that you look for when selecting an AI use
Yeah,
case.
sure. Well, there are quite a few, characteristics that goes into when you're looking at a use case,
Hmm.
and certain use case might have all of these. Some may have few of them. So
Yep.
let me just enumerate some of the highlight and key important ones. Number one, whichever use case you choose, it has to align well with your broader organization's vision. Second is that the use cases many a times help to improve the velocity of the business. For example, we have seen a lot of AI co-pilots being launched last year with natural language and generative capabilities, which are helping to move things faster in the sales funnel. So that's a clear example there of a use case. Thirdly, many a times these use cases also help bring more efficiencies in the business and help improve productivity. So that's also a common attribute of some of these use cases. Another attribute we can talk about here is, does this use case help me become a more data driven organization? In the sense that does this use case help make my organization's culture to change, wherein we are able to now comprehend the complexity of the business using data. Just for example, uh, a use of machine learning to predict customer behavior or forecast sales.
Hmm.
So that's another attribute that we see in a use case.
Yep.
Next, very important one is certain use cases help you transform the way you engage with your employees or with your customers. And in this, I can give you an example where companies have used multimodal AI conversational chatbots to answer the queries from the prospective customers or from their recently hired employees, for example. So moving on, couple of more attributes is sometimes these AI implementations can help fuel innovation in your organization. That is, they help you build new business, they help you build new products, help you build new services, and actually that would could help build a new business model altogether.
Mm.
And last but not the least, which I intentionally kept it at the last because it should be encompassing all of these, is whether it is the AI use cases helping build a business's credibility, trustworthiness, brand, and its authenticity in the market. So, so all of these use cases eventually should help to fortify trust of the organization in the eyes of their customers, employees, or shareholders. So, so these are the common attributes, Rupert. I would say, as I said, some use case may have all, some may have few of these areas of influence, but
Yeah,
that's the list.
that's great. Very comprehensive view there,
Mm.
Vikas. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, you know, what we've seen work really well in organisations as well is a spread of use cases across
Mhm.
the categories you mentioned. So we're seeing a real mix of the everyday use cases you mentioned. So enhancing and aiding general productivity and effectiveness of team members. So that could be software developers using GitHub Copilot, or it could be you know, marketing content writers who are using ChatGPT to generate content. It could be that sort of thing. But along with this, It's also a selection of use cases that are being widespread, such as I think you mentioned pushing the boundaries.
Yeah,
Doing things like planning to use AI to reimagine the business processes and
right.
the operations,
Yeah,
the methodologies. Um, First, this there's also this consideration of the game-changing ones, which you said. So, what are the AI initiatives that people are going to take and the use cases that will propel them ahead of the competition? So,
yeah,
examples of this could be things like I don't know, autonomous business models or the innovative products,
yeah.
things that are real game changers. Um, but they need to choose which these use cases to pursue, and so that's where this empirical and subjective benefits analysis comes in. So asking questions, look, what's the productivity gains we're getting from this? What's the revenue uplift we're getting? How does this compare to benefits the business will see? The cost of the AI versus benefits, and what about user engagement levels? Are they impacted post implementation?
Hmm.
So there's quite a
Yeah,
few things there to consider.
yeah, indeed. So, and those things actually go into that the prioritization exercise, really to know what to execute and when. But yeah,
And you know, we also, I guess, one of the considerations that we haven't yet touched on properly is the challenges around some of the use of AI in restricted sites. Whilst everyone's kind of gunning for AI, there's complications around for example, the US government. We're seeing a lot of pushback there. So there's growing
yes,
concerns over use of AI technologies. I believe Congress have now just banned the use of Microsoft 365
yeah,
Copilot. You read that as well?
yeah, yeah. We, yeah. So,
And but the benefits have to be weighed up against the risk. And so even
mm,
these pro AI organizations have to consider the potential risks associated with each use case. So what's the privacy concerns? Have the ethical considerations been thought through? Are there unfair biases present? And something that we see and hear a lot now is how accurate and reliable is the data? And all this contributes to that decision making around which AI use cases to prioritize.
indeed, and I think uh, that's clearly the case that once we have this laundry list of use cases, our actual next stop is how do we articulate their priority.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the thumb rules which McKinsey defined some years ago, that whenever you're taking on a large transformational project in an organization, one of the thumb rules is that it should deliver at least 20% plus EBITDA improvements. But nevertheless, more in day-to-day words and language, what it means is that we must be cognizant of the investment that are involved in taking up these use cases, and and also keep an eye on the pace of technological advancements,
Hmm.
because the technology space in this area is moving very fast, and we don't want that we end up doing a use case by putting resources now. Tomorrow it may not deliver what we want it to deliver, or there are some other means to deliver it in a much simpler way. So hence the prioritization exercise becomes extremely crucial for an organization. So what we do here, Rupert, with our clients is that we end up with doing multiple sessions and workshops with our customers and help to map these use cases on a two axis. One is the value, that's enterprise value it's going to create for the organization. It could be in terms of financial value, social value, and other things. And on the other axis, we look at the feasibility, mainly on the technology feasibility, as well as in terms of do they have the financial viability to actually take up that use case. So
Yep.
once we plot these use cases on these two axes, we actually come up with four quadrants, as you may call it. The first one is commit, that is, these are your use cases, your first go to use cases, and you put your organizational energy into creating organizational learning machines to enable and fast track these use cases.
Okay.
And actually these are the use cases which end up becoming your company's foundation to make you an AI fueled company in the future.
I like that. AI fueled.
Yeah. The second quadrant is, we call it observe, which is, these are the use cases which may not be feasible today for various reasons, maybe technology feasibility or financial viability and other things. But as I said before, the way the technology is evolving, some of these use cases might become feasible in 6 to 12 months' time.
Mhm.
Thus, it's important to keep an eye on what are the new developments happening in tech space and in your industry and also within your organization. Because
Yep.
sometimes some great technology revolution can happen within the organization also. So it has been observed that in many cases, some of these use cases which are not feasible at the moment starts to look plausible as you continue to progress in the time. So that's the second quadrant for us. The third is a backlog. These are the use cases which are, I would say, next best bet for us after commit, because you have here the sponsorship from executives, you have the
Mhm.
tech, you have data,
Yep.
and these are easy to adopt as well in the organization. Just that they don't deliver you as much value as the commit use cases. So the suggested approach here would be organize a hackathon, for example, and get some of these rolling in a controlled fashion and see what it can, how it impacts the work or your customer engagement or other things. And if they start to demonstrate some value, then actually move them to the commit bucket,
Okay.
wherein you're putting your organization full energy behind it. And the last element of last quadrant is the use cases, which I would call it discard. And by the way, it's a good news that if you have some use cases in this bucket,
Yes.
because that means you have done a thorough job, and you have, however, have to give a pass for now to these use cases. So that's how we really go about the prioritization exercise.
Brilliant. Really good advice to anyone out there who's listening. A great methodology to help prioritization. Uh, because I'm not sure if that's sacred IP or whether that's something that you could share maybe later on to
Yeah,
people who are attending.
yes, sure.
Um, so I recall I think Gartner have got a Prism uh, tool which is quite similar to that
Yeah,
in that you can determine which investments are valuable and which ones should be avoided against based on plotting certain weighted criteria. You add scores and then you align it to your business, your needs. Prism's a little bit kind of convoluted, but I think a nice matrix would be a great tool to use.
sure. Well, actually, on that note, Rupert, I would like to now invite your thoughts on how Orbus works with its clients in identifying areas of AI application.
Yeah, sure. Very happy to share some insights. So, a large portion of our customers, they are facilitating, well, they all are, enterprise transformation. And as you well know, it's multifaceted discipline. So customer use cases are very varied. They could be centered around navigating and rationalizing their business and IT portfolio. It could be about managing complexity of organization-wide architectures. It could be driving technology innovation, et cetera, et cetera. But to determine and understand the customer's objectives, we have to work closely with them, and we have to ensure that we understand what their goals are, what their key business outcomes are, and teams will look to identify where Orbis Infinity can help deliver the most value through its implementation. Um, we then go on to elicit the understanding of where AI integrations would fit in terms of the current landscape,
Yeah,
identify the upside benefits against potential risks, and then start mapping those out. And our professional services advisory would ensure that the platform is correctly configured and appropriately configured to capture the key attributes to support an AI enablement. So these are things we talked about earlier, controls for compliance,
yeah,
data privacy, perhaps there's specific interfaces that need to be documented and so on. And then customers go on to model their current technology landscape
mhm,
as well as their target state. And this provides a view of their future AI-enabled organization, if you will. Um, and as you'd expect, from this point on, the platform can deliver, lots of capabilities to help you make informed decisions and also help identify future use cases for AI.
yeah, very interesting actually.
Mhm.
So, can you allude to some of the culture and mentality that you're seeing in your customers?
Yeah. I love it. I mean,
Mm,
the customers are extremely excited about the prospect of being AI augmented.
yeah,
Um, you know, we're hearing about them, a lot of the time. Like Orbus, they're trying to adopt this AI first mindset.
yeah,
So everything you're developing, everything you're building, everything you're thinking about, ask the question to yourself,
Mm.
can AI help? Can it make us and our teams more productive? Can it make us more competitive? And the answer is usually yes. Um, but with that mindset, there's a culture that needs to be born. A culture that promotes innovation. And as you mentioned before, because that requires experimentation, you got to be willing to try new things out, and even more so, willingness to fail and fail fast. And that's kind of how we're seeing organisations benefit the most so far.
Yeah, that's actually again so topical right now, because I would say right after COVID, the AI is again helping us as individuals, as organizations, to change our viewpoint, change our mindset, and embrace change,
Yes.
and actually bring in new things which are beneficial for ourselves and for our customers. Wonderful. Well, actually, that brings us to our closing part of the discussion. And for me, this discussion has been very enjoyable. I learned a lot listening to your insights, Rupert.
Likewise.
And yeah, just to now close off, perhaps let's give our audience our top three tips for the leadership when they are embarking on AI transformation journey.
Okay, shall I start?
Yeah, yeah, please, Rupert. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Great. Um, okay, really obvious, but to me, paramount is that clear strategy and vision. Making sure that you're clearly understanding and the businesses understanding the use case that is being sought. And so, is this an everyday enablement, productivity improvement use case? Is it a game-changing innovation use case to services or products? Those, but having that sort of identification of strategy and vision is
Hmm.
so important. Otherwise, you'll be basically, with a blindfold on going into the abyss.
Yeah.
The the second one is risk. So governance frameworks and risk. Depending on the potential impact and coverage of the solutions, a strong governance framework is needed. You've got to cover off those policies, got to cover off compliance. Data and security is really paramount. And then my third one is back onto the culture piece. Really, it's the investment into training and talent.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've seen a lot, and we've seen this at Orbus a great deal as well, is that you've got to give the teams opportunity to get their hands onto these tools and learn with them and experiment with them. And people out there are scared. They think that AI may take their jobs or impact them significantly. And others are worried about the ethical side. Some are just a bit too super keen to get hands on, as you've probably seen. But ensuring that your team are well educated and they're trained
Yeah.
will absolutely help foster that innovation and adoption.
Yes.
So those are my top three, and yours?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, Mine is on similar lines. I'll come to that. But just to comment on the last part,
Mm,
as I think, just to tie it up with the discussion we had before, while we like to give more and more tools for our teams to try it out, but in the guardrails of data privacy and other frameworks, so that they don't uh, end up falling into the trap of misusing the AI as well.
yes.
So yeah, so that comes along with it. So my top three, Rupert, similar lines, but maybe slightly different. The first one is that I think before an organization tries into getting into AI journey, I will refer them back to the traditional BOE model for any technology adoption, for that matter, which is, before you commence, evaluate your organization readiness, perceive benefits that AI could bring, and thirdly, what are the external pressures on you in terms of regulatory or competition that is actually pushing you towards this journey. So that's one. So once you have these three parameters well captured, then you can chart out your plan quite well.
So
But second,
before evaluate and external
yeah,
pressures. Yeah,
exactly.
with
Yes.
it.
So basically, and the second one is that, which is also true with any technology, that the cost and complexities normally they reduce over time. Thus, it is very important to have the right strategic plan to know when to bring AI in the business, and when to wait. Because this again a topic we spoke before, that let's not put resources now which on things which can actually become easier to do later on.
Mhm.
And the third tip is that any use case that we shortlist after that prioritization exercise we spoke about before, have the metrics defined for its impact on business, technology, and people.
Mhm.
Because it's very critical to not to forget that the role that people plays in successful AI adoption, and it could also have some impact on people in terms of the way they conduct their jobs. So hence we have to have that clear metrics defined, before you start the journey.
Very good. Excellent advice there. Well, Vikas, I can see that we're out of time now, so just want to say thank you very much indeed for your excellent insights and a very enjoyable conversation.
Thank you.
Been great. I think we covered some great ground today. We didn't get around to talking about LLMs and build a buy scenarios or models as a service, but
Yeah,
that will maybe be the next podcast. We'll,
yeah.
we'll see. Nonetheless, great conversation, and look forward to seeing it again. Just one thing, anyone who's listening who's interested, you can look up shikerconsulting.com. We'll post that into the chat and reach out to Vikas. And thank you all for tuning in today. And goodbye.
Thank you. And lovely talking to you as well, Rupert.
Likewise. Thanks, Vikas.